Hi guys, and welcome back to Twisted Locker, your definitive horror podcast. Today we've got a very special classic review, one of the greatest horror movies ever made. It's no surprise, it's Evil Dead 2. What have you got for me, Jenks?
Right, this came out in 1987. It's Evil Dead 2, directed by the great Sam Raimi. Now, some would argue it's a sequel, some would argue it's a remake. I say it doesn't matter, but I would say also it's a remake. Uh,
Can I
anybody,
butt in there a second, right?
hang on, as Sam Raimi said otherwise.
No. Well,
What?
yeah,
Go
it
on.
is a sequel, and you can Google it, right, on YouTube. Bruce Campbell explains exactly how you cut the two films together to make the second one a sequel.
Yeah.
It is a sequel, but they didn't have the rights to do a recap of the first film, so they rushed him. They rushed all the start bit out quick, chops Linda's head off, and then boom, it starts as Ash gets attacked by the Force from the first film,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
you can cut that to the second one. Now, I know what you mean in it being a remake because obviously Ash goes back to the cabin with Linda, and obviously she gets possessed and the film starts.
Yeah.
But it's a sequel. I'm telling you,
Oh,
it's a
listen,
sequel.
I knew that thing about Bruce Campbell, but I
Yeah.
don't really take advice off Bruce Campbell. If we look at it as a film, it's like, where's all the evidence of those people they came with in the first one? There's no blood anywhere. It's just a complete rehash. But I think it's more to do with the fact that certainly in Britain, Evil Dead 1 was banned. It was one of the video nasties. And it was no, I think Sam Raimi wanted to get that film out and put a sort of stuck Evil Dead 2 stamp on it. And we've got one of the greatest horrors ever. The premise is pretty simple. Ash Williams and his girlfriend Linda go to the cabin for a romantic weekend. And he reads from the Book of the Dead, and all hell breaks loose. It's the same as all of them. Doesn't really matter, but it is one of the best horror films ever. Now, as a kid, I didn't know it was a comedy horror. Only as a grown up, you realize it's really funny. I remember having nightmares about it. I remember I had a nightmare about a severed head falling on my lap. Straight out of Evil Dead. I couldn't sleep in the night. And I think only later in life you realize, like the scene where he sticks the knife in his hand and chainsaws it off, and he's laughing as if he's got one up on his hand. That is one of the
Yeah.
funniest jokes ever. It's not a gag; it's just a brilliant visual, uh, ridiculous idea, and
Yeah, because
it
he
ha-
does the "Who's laughing now?" It's one of the
yeah.
best lines in cinema
Oh,
history because he's
it's
chopping his own hand off.
yeah, it's an amazing thing.
Mm.
It also has one of the best zombies ever, and it's Henrietta, and she goes up there, one of my favorite zombies. And if we ever do a top
Yeah,
10 zombies, she's definitely gonna be on the list. What do you think, Kurt?
yeah, absolutely, Jenks. Easily one of the most iconic horror movies ever made. I think it helped shape horror to what it is now. Obviously, as well, you've got the cabin in the woods. It started all that. I just
Yeah,
want to point out as well, repping Ash from Evil Dead 2. I had to get that on there. I absolutely love this movie. Now, I always flip between this and The Thing for my favorite movie of all time. It's very close. If you ask me on one week, I'll say Evil Dead 2. Yeah, so I always flip between these two films for my favorite, but Evil Dead 2 kind of edges it a little bit because it's a franchise and it's easily one of my favorite movie franchises of all time. Every single film, the series, everything I absolutely love. Evil Dead 2 is by far the more superior Evil Dead movie. It has absolutely everything. Bruce Campbell really comes into his own as Ash Williams. With the first one, he seems like he's just a character in the movie. Now they really dial up the Bruce Campbell that we know and love in the second
yeah,
film. Comedy, the horror, everything mixed perfectly. It must be the first film to balance that tight line between comedy and horror so well. It,
yeah,
like you said, Jenks, it doesn't. If you watch when you're young, you will not realize this film's
yeah,
a comedy, and I wouldn't even say it's a comedy, but it's slapstick and it's got those funny elements in there. Obviously, Bruce Campbell's performance alone carries that film. Um, this film is just amazing. Everything about it, I love. The original script that Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert came up with was, and they were writing this script while on set for Crime With,
Yeah.
Sam Raimi's follow up to Evil Dead. It was originally going to be right. Ash was going to be held captive in this cabin by a group of escaped convicts looking for treasure. Now that sounds amazing. I love Evil
Picture.
Dead 2, right? But how good does that sound? And it's kind of developed to what it ended up being, if you think of it. There's not that much difference. Another group
What
of people come looking for something.
yeah, but well, you're saying that there was not gonna be any horror element, it was just gonna be like a thriller, like an action thriller?
No, it was going to be the horror element,
Oh,
obviously,
right.
but
Oh, I see, the
the
setup.
the the setup was going to be a group of
Right.
escaped convicts find this cabin looking for treasure, and obviously stumble upon Ash and the Deadites, and all hell breaks
That
loose.
does sound good. They should do that in one of the sequels. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
I know it's great, isn't it?
I tell you when I was a kid, I loved Army Darkness. Okay, I'm not gonna go too much into Army Darkness now, but the comedy was ramped up too much for me. As a kid, I loved Army Darkness, but for Evil Dead, they like you said, they balance it perfectly. Um,
Yeah,
and it's like a bit like sort of Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is a very funny film, but if you were young, you just think it's just a gangster movie, but it's hysterical. And that's why
yeah,
I think Tarantino's a big fan of Evil Dead too, especially the way Sam Raimi shot it with these sort of fast close-ups, and it's become Sam Raimi's signature move now. And you've got the house that is the cabin is tiny. It looks like it's got two rooms, like a shed. And when he's running through it, smashing through the doors, it's just an endless maze. Now, I don't know how they did that. Was it genuine? Did they make it bigger on the set? But it seems like it's a bit of a TARDIS, like an endless
yeah,
room.
yeah, yeah.
But I remember when I was young watching it, I think I watched it. I was about 8 or something. I was really young, or maybe 9. And when it came on video anyway, so it was about maybe 2 years after it came out. And I remember being so scared, but enjoying it. Told myself, just remember, Steve, there's people with movie cameras there. He's not on his own in the cabin. There's loads of people there that's filming him. Actually, probably only about 4 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a big production, was it?
It
Yeah,
is it is really scary though, like just the cinematography and the lighting, that wind
yeah.
sound that Sam Raimi recorded that out of his bedroom window.
Is
The
it?
wind.
And well,
Yeah.
I love the fact that when the entity is going through the woods, and apparently this is Sam Raimi or somebody on a scrambler bike with a camera attached to him. Is that true? I read that somewhere, which is
I think
awesome.
so, yeah, something like that.
And like
Yeah,
I
there's a
saw,
proper, like, makeshift film, innit?
oh, I love it. And you saw like I saw a making of where when Ash, the entity goes through Ash's car, it's just a camera on a pole, just going poking through the,
Smashing through
and
the window, like.
I love shit like that. I cannot
Yeah, yeah.
stand when DVDs first came out, right? And I loved looking at the extras and how they made these
Yeah,
films.
yeah.
When it got to like my Spider-Man DVD, when the extras was just some guy on a computer, it was just so boring.
Oh,
You want to
I
see
know.
like how they did this, like in Day of the Dead, when you got the innards hanging out and where they pull that guy apart. I love the fact that like the hand, you know, it's a stump and the other bit's covered
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
stump
yeah.
goes out. I know it can look a little bit naff to like modern sort of viewers, but that's what makes it. That's the charm, isn't it? It's part of the charm, and
Oh,
I love it for
absolutely.
it.
Any movie that came out in the 80s, all the horrors that we love, they've got that charm about them. Now there are things dated in Evil Dead 2, specifically Linda dancing in the
Yeah,
forest.
yeah,
There's a
but it
few there's a
does.
few things outdated, but that's the charm. Like, I've never once watched it and
Yeah,
gone like, "Ah." It's the
the
charm of the movie.
and I've been like he's got a shot. I think he's got a shotgun that doesn't run out of bullets, and he's got a petrol chainsaw that doesn't need petrol. It's just an endless thing strapped to his hand, but I fucking love it. And this was always this was always my number one film ever, and it was always
Yeah,
between Return of the Living Dead and this. And it again, like you said with the thing, depends what mood you're in. Um,
absolutely, yeah.
you know. But yes, it is without a doubt. It'll always be in my top five. Always, it's genius, and I love it.
Yeah, always in my top three, top five, whatever you want to say. Obviously, love this movie. One
Yeah,
thing I will say though is right, we've only got Stephen King to thank for Evil Dead 1 and 2. The first one, he did that the most ferocious movie you'll ever
yeah,
see, something like that, that got everyone
yeah,
watching it. And then Stephen King was sitting at a dinner table with Dino De Laurentiis, who was producing his movie Maximum Overdrive at the time.
yeah.
He convinced him to fund Evil Dead 2 because obviously he was such a massive fan of the first one. And then, yeah, he came along and helped fund the movie. And yeah, we got Evil Dead 2. So we can only
So,
thank Stephen King.
oh,
As if
you
he
know,
hasn't
right?
given us enough.
One last thing I'd say, right? Uh, Evil Dead. I can't. I'm not sure the budget of Evil Dead, but I'm guessing it was really low, even for back then, right? And I love the fact that how many years is it now? It's 30. Oh, my math sucks. It's about it's 30. Oh, don't make me add up on the
Don't
stream.
I'm gonna count to three.
I'm gonna count to three.
1, 2.
30 odd years, right? And we're still talking about it. We're still doing videos. People still love it. And the Marvels came out. The Marvels came out like a few months ago. Cost like 300 million to make, which means it'll have to make about 800 million to break even. No one's going to be talking about it in 35 years, right? Which I fucking love, but we'll still be talking about Evil Dead 2. And that's what I love about old classic horrors. You can't beat it. Yeah.
No, you can't. There we are then, guys. That's all we got time for today. Just remember, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.